Modes of limited transposition. What are those? Basically, a mode of limited transposition is a scale that has more notes than it has modes. If you consider a major scale, choosing a pitch other than the root as your central tonic home pitch will produce a different mode. Modes are basically scales that are related to other scales but have their own unique characteristics. For example, you can think of Dorian mode as the second mode of a major scale, but you can also think of it as a minor scale with a raised sixth. That raised sixth is what gives it its unique flavor. So in the case of a major scale, there are 7 pitches, and rotating your starting point will produce a unique mode for each scale degree. The same thing will happen for most scales, but there are certain scales where this cannot occur. These are called modes of limited transposition. What that means is these scales have at least 2 modes that are identical in their pattern of intervals. In other words, if you rotate your starting pitch in the scale, you end up with the same mode, just transposed. And by extension of that, they can only be transposed a limited number of times as well. It's a type of musical symmetry. These modes were first cataloged by the French composer Olivier Messiaen in his book The Technique of My Musical Language. According to Messiaen, only 7 modes of limited transposition are mathematically possible in our Western tuning system of 12-tone equal temperament. We're just going to look at the first one, which is commonly referred to as the whole tone scale. Messiaen did not invent this scale. There are examples of its use that predate him, but it's exactly what the name implies. It's a scale that only moves in whole steps. Here's what it sounds like. It sounds kind of spooky. This is a type of hexatonic scale because it contains 6 pitches, and despite having 6 pitches, it only has 1 mode. I started that scale on C, so let me start it on the second scale degree instead, which is D. It's the same thing. In a way, I've only transposed it up a whole step, but that doesn't really change anything about it. It's still the same scale with the same pattern of intervals. Because every interval is a whole step, this scale has no direction to it whatsoever. There's no gravity in any of the pitches. None of them want to pull you anywhere. Everything is equal. It's just like a wash of sound. The only way to transpose this scale is to do so by a half step. That'll just give you the other 6 pitches in our 12-tone system. So this scale can be said to have 1 mode and 2 transpositions. Now, what's possible in terms of chords? If you stack your thirds, you'll find that every single chord in this scale is an augmented chord. Not exactly a stable harmony. So that's cool and all, but what can you actually do with it? One thing you can do is compose a whole song or piece of music based on this scale. Lots of people in different genres of music have done this. For example, there's this famous piano piece by Claude Debussy. Or John Coltrane's One Down, One Up. Or Fractures by King Crimson. Another thing you can do is use it when soloing. The most appropriate time would be if you're soloing over an augmented chord. You can also justifiably play it over a dominant 7th chord if you're trying to evoke some real tanginess. Ultimately, it's up to your imagination. If you want to build up your whole tone scale chops, I put together a book of whole tone scale exercises that should help you get it in your fingers. If you want it, it's up for sale on my website. It's only $5. I'll pin a post on my page with a link. With that, thank you for watching, and I will see you next Thursday.